good to hear the kids. And it's good to not hear the kids. It's been a little over 3 years since this church started. In 3 years, we've been through a whole lot together. We've had our laughs, like the time that couch that was right there collapsed in the middle of service with people in it. And somehow 3 or 4 of you just ran in like a pit crew with all this wood and blocked it up, and we got through. We've had our relaxed times. I'm thinking about Sunday nights around your campfire. I'm thinking about when we weren't allowed to have church or weren't supposed to have church inside because of COVID, so we had it at the pond and spent our afternoons floating around in the water and fishing. We've had hard work. If you were one of the OGs, you remember this floor was just filthy, dirty, busted up concrete. We had to put our kids in their worst clothes to come to church because they'd get ruined just walking around and crawling around. We tore all that stuff out. We painted. We put heat in the floor. We're comfortable this morning. There's no propane heaters running right down the middle like we used to do. We've had special times. We've had baptisms. We had baptisms in the pond. We had baby dedications. We had communion. We need to have communion again, but when we have communion, we're so small we can all get in a big group. We can tear pieces off the loaf and pass it around. It's special. We've had hard times. No need to bring those up, but just thank God for the ones that are behind us. Thank Him for His grace and mercy. And pray that He'll give us wisdom and grace for the ones that we're still going through. We've laughed, chilled, sweated, worked, and cried together. And if you worked close to Justin on that wonky ladder back there, you probably bled together. To put it quite simply, we've lived life together these past 3 years. But not just life, we've lived the Christian life. If you're new here, or if somebody happens to watch this on YouTube, you'll be the first. Congratulations. You might be wondering, how is the Christian life different from any other life? How would being a part of this church, how would being a part of any church change my life? Would it be any different? Would it be any different than doing it alone? Would it be any different than doing it with your own family and that's it? I think it changes less than we think in terms of what will happen to us, the things that happen to us. I think it changes what happens to us on earth less than we think it will, but I think it changes what happens inside of us more than we think it will. Ecclesiastes 3, 1-8 says, "There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, time to scatter stones, a time to gather them, time to embrace and time to refrain from embracing, time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace." If you're a fan of the Byrds, you'll realize that they didn't come up with that song on their own. Turn, turn, turn. Came right out of this. But this is true for us. It's true for us in the church, and it's true for those in the world. As I look back and thought back about our 3 years together, we've experienced nearly all of these. If Gabby flips back through that list and you look at it, look at those different things, and I think you can find something that says, yeah, we've been there. Even in 3 years, we've been there. Now, Jenna hasn't killed Nathan yet, but if he keeps it up, no, I'm just kidding. She'll probably get me first. Yeah. If you look at the list, though, it's stuff that we've been through. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And the stuff that we've been through isn't any different than what people go through outside these walls. One here this morning was talking about, hey, sorry we haven't been around. My mom's got cancer. It hits us just the same. We're living in the same world, under the same sun, under the same rain, with the same sin, the same disease, the same pain. Those things affect us when they come externally in the same ways. Ecclesiastes 3:19 takes it one step farther. It says, surely the fate of human beings is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so dies the other. All have the same breath. Humans have no advantage over animals. Verse 20, all go to the same place. All come from dust, and to dust all return. So not only is our life as part of a church pretty much the same with what we have to deal with as other people, when it boils down, Ecclesiastes says our lives, our physical bodies, are just like the animals, from dust to dust. It's kind of depressing. But it's important to remember that both as individuals and as members of a church, that there are seasons. There are things that come and things that go. The thing that you're in right now probably won't be there forever, whether it's good or bad. I remember that Mark Lowry guy. Do you remember the Christian comedian? He had this thing, it will pass. That was his, and it came to pass. He said that's his favorite verse. Because, anything bad, and it came to pass. And he said, you're on top of the world, that'll pass too. Wherever you might be, we're in a season. Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's not. But that's why it's nice to have each other. That's why it's nice to be part of a group, to help bear those burdens and weather those rough seasons, to help celebrate the good ones. It's why the good times together feel so good, because we were in the bad times together. We remember what that was like. We have found that living our lives together is better than living them alone. Romans 12:15 says, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Skip, you shared that this morning. We're in the same track this morning. It doesn't say, just come here and sit in the couch, or go to a different church and sit in a pew. It says, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Get to know each other. Don't just occupy the same space. Be a part of each other's lives. Rejoicing when we have victories, mourning when we have losses. I think we do this here. This morning I wanted to encourage you to do it even more. Yesterday I had 2 interactions that kind of showed me this whole rejoicing and mourning thing all in a nutshell. First, I talked with one of our brothers who couldn't be here this morning, but would like to be. We talked for an hour and a half. It was a great talk. We were just catching up on where everybody's been, what's going on. His family's been through COVID. They just lost a family member. They've got test results coming up that could go either way that are really scary. They're in a tough season. I also got a text from Livy, my niece, who's away at college. And it was that video of her being baptized. She's in a good season. In both cases, I was so glad that they thought of me to share those things with me, to let me be a part of their life. Whether the tough season, whether the good season. It felt good to know that they thought about me and wanted me to know. We're a small group. There's a lot of things that we can't do here that bigger groups can do. But this is one thing we can. We can be close to each other's joys and sorrows. We can know who's up, we can know who's down, and we can be there with them. Let's continue to do that for each other. If you need help, if you need a shoulder to cry on, or if you know someone that does, let us know. I'm going to volunteer the entire church. We are here for you. We are here for each other. You are here for me. I am here for you. Let's not live life alone. Now, if I stopped right there, we could pat ourselves on the back for our excellent club that we've made. Right? If we stop at just living life together and bearing each other's burdens and being there when we need a shoulder to cry on, that's all very nice. It's very considered. It's a very nice thing to do. But it's no different than what any other social club or charity organization does. It's about making this life better. That's not why we're here. We would do our thing together. We would make our lives as good as we could. And then we'd be dust to dust with the animals. The thing that sets a church apart from a club is that we don't do it for this life, we do it for the next. The work that we're doing here right now isn't for here and right now. It's for the next life. We've already established that life hits us all the same. Jesus says in Matthew 5:45, He, God, causes His sun to rise on the evil and the good and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Life is going to happen to all of us. But our reason for being here together isn't to try to make this life better. That's a really nice side effect that happens by living the Christian life together. It does make this life better. But that's not the point. Our purpose is to help each other in whatever way we can. Remember that this life is not all that we have. This life is not the destination. The point, the purpose of all the help, of all the interaction, of all the living together is to push us forward into the next life, to make sure that we're ready for it. It might mean encouraging each other. It might mean helping each other. It might mean being a shoulder to cry on. But it also might mean calling each other out in love and truth because we know what the stakes are. Those are the differences. We're not called to do this for charity alone. That's part of it. That's a thing that happens. Jesus took care of physical needs, so should we. But why? Why did He do it? It wasn't so that they would be full that day. He came to give life and life more abundantly. That didn't mean until you die. That means for eternity. There's one very big way. There is one other very big way. I'm a preacher. There's another big way that being part of a church is different than a club. We're not limited by what we can do. If we had a club and we took up a collection in the back and we went out to do whatever we could for people's physical needs, we could do as much as we had time, energy, or money to do. And that would be the end of it. I told you I spoke with that brother whose family's in a tough season. They're feeling the weight of life right now, but they're not crushed by it. They know that no matter what, God is still God and His promises never fail. We fail. Our understanding fails. Sometimes we don't see what He's doing. But at the end of this life, however long or short it is, when this body is reduced to dust, our eternal souls can live with Him in paradise. My brother knows that. His family knows that. But it's still good to talk about it. It's still good to hear somebody on the other end. It's still good to know somebody's there for you. But it's more than that. It strengthens him and his family to know that we're praying for him and for the situation. When we pray, we're not sending good vibes and positive thoughts. You see that all the time. Sending you good vibes, man. I don't know. My antenna must be broken. I don't know how to receive good vibes. If anybody knows how to take that in, let me know. I'd love to get them fixed. But that's not what we're doing. We're praying for each other. We're talking to God in heaven. We're saying, God, thank you for saving my niece. Thank you for adding her name to your list. God, remember my brother's family. Remember what they're going through. We love them. And so do you. Remember what they're going through. Help us to know how to help them. Be merciful to my friend who's lost. God, he's out there right now. Don't take him. Show me how to be there for him. Show me how to show him your love. Be merciful. We're not sending good vibes and thoughts. We're talking with God about the people that we love. It's a huge difference. We can do things through prayer that we could never do no matter how much money there was in the box there. I wanted to share this morning not because I think we're so bad at it, but just to remind us why we're here. I know that we get busy. I know that we get tired. I know that we get worn out. Things have been weird lately. We've not been able to have church as regularly as we wanted to, with sickness and weather and all that stuff, and we get a little off. But let's remember why we're here. Let's remember we're not working for this life. We're working for the next. Back in Ecclesiastes 3, verse 11, He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I think people know in their hearts that there's more than this life. I think that's why religion and philosophy and all those things are so cantankerous and so, touchy with people, is because they have a sense of eternity. But it says right here, and we know it, I know it, it's too big for my mind to get around. It hurts my brain when I try to think about eternity. I don't like to think about it. It's scary. But we've got to remember that living this life, all the things that we do as a church, are not for this. It's for the next. At the beginning, I said, I think living as part of a body of believers changes what happens to us less than we think it might, but it changes us on the inside more than we think it might. I've told this story again, but I've told the story before. I'm going to tell it again. I'm tongue-tied this morning. I'm sorry. When I was young and kind of running wild, I got into a little trouble. And then I got into a little more trouble. And it got bad enough, I had a pretty big wake-up call in the form of an accident that almost killed me. Rolled my Jeep. After that, it was crazy how the chatter started around town. I saw, walking around, I saw the disapproving looks, I saw the side eye, I saw that's the one, that's the drunk, crashed his Jeep. I got all that. I saw all that, but that accident was a wake-up call for me. It gave me a sense of how fragile life is. And it also gave me a sense of how eternal eternity is. And I thought about it, if that would have went a different way, was I ready to meet God? I know he's merciful, but I didn't feel ready. And in all that, I came back to God. But the funny thing was, I didn't feel better. I felt guilty. I felt dirty. I felt like everyone was piling on. I felt ashamed. And I kind of just decided I deserve it. I'm just going to take it. I have it coming once I got my head past my pride. One day I overheard my parents, though, and they were telling someone, if you have anything else bad to say about Adam, go ahead and say it now. We're moving on. I heard them defending me even though I didn't deserve it. That's when I understood what God's love is. Amen. That's when I understood his mercy, his compassion, his forgiveness. God had forgiven me when I asked for it, but I couldn't understand it until I saw it exhibited to me from a person. God doesn't need us, but he can certainly use us. And I know that those are some of the ways that he does. For me, God used my parents. He used that forgiveness to show me his love, to show me his mercy and his forgiveness. I believe that phone call yesterday strengthened both of us as we talked about the good and the bad and how God works in all of it. I believe that baptism caused some late night tears of joy as our family witnessed the public declaration of a life dedicated to Christ. These are the ways that what we do as part of a church changes people's insides, changes our insides. I want to try to show that kind of love to others, the kind that was showed to me. If I'm successful, maybe someone else will feel it like I did, and maybe they'll share it with somebody else who will then feel it like I did. And living life together will take care of physical needs. We'll pray for each other, for real pray for each other, and we'll show God's love, tough or otherwise. Sometimes we do have to show tough love. If we do those things, we might not live to see the results. We might not know how our little part played into somebody else's recognition of a holy God. But I just know if we do those things, the party might be a little bigger in heaven. Let's pray.